Famous Americans. Abraham Lincoln. Introduction. Many people think that Abraham Lincoln was one of the greatest presidents of the United States. He was born into a poor family in Kentucky, but taught himself to be a lawyer. He became president during one of the most difficult times in American history, the American Civil War. This was a time when the northern states were fighting against the southern states over the problem of slavery. Abraham Lincoln knew how important it was to reunite the southern states and the northern states and to end slavery. Birth and childhood. Abraham Lincoln was born in 1809 in a one-room log cabin in Kentucky. His father's name was Thomas Lincoln, and his mother's name was Nancy Hanks Lincoln. Lincoln's family went to a church that was opposed to slavery, and later they moved north across the Ohio River to Indiana. This was important because Indiana was a free state. Slavery was not allowed. As a child, Lincoln only went to school for about 1 year, so he taught himself by reading books. Later, he and his family moved to Illinois. Young adulthood. When he was young, Abraham Lincoln did not like the difficult life he had to face out on the frontier. Some of his neighbors and some of his family members thought he was lazy, but as he grew older, he became stronger and more helpful to his parents. He became very good at using an axe to cut wood and at building fences. Later on, after he had grown a little older and a lot stronger, he fought in a wrestling match with the leader of a group of rough young men called the Clary's Grove Boys. Marriage and children. When Abraham Lincoln was 22 years old, he left his family and traveled by boat down the Mississippi River. After he saw how slaves were treated in the South, he walked back home to Illinois. When he was about 30 years old, he met Mary Todd in Springfield, Illinois. Mary came from a wealthy slave-owning family in Kentucky. They were married several years later. They had 4 children: Robert Todd Lincoln, Edward Baker Lincoln, Willie Lincoln, and Thomas Lincoln. Lincoln the lawyer. Abraham Lincoln had several different kinds of jobs before he became president. For a while, he and a partner owned a small general store. He was a soldier during the Black Hawk War in 1832, a war between the United States and Native Americans. Later, he was postmaster and then county surveyor in New Salem, Illinois. While he worked at these jobs, he continued to read books to improve his education. He became a lawyer in 1836 and moved to Springfield, Illinois. He was already known for being anti-slavery. First term as President of the United States. Abraham Lincoln was opposed to slavery. His opponent in the election, Stephen Douglas, wanted to keep slavery legal in the United States. All of the anti-slavery northern states voted for Lincoln, but none of the southern states did. However, he won the election in 1860 and became the 16th President of the United States. Because Lincoln was anti-slavery, and because he won the election, one by one, the southern states began seceding from or leaving the Union. This led to the American Civil War. The American Civil War. Abraham Lincoln was a brilliant man and a strong leader. The American Civil War was the most difficult time in American history. The northern states were opposed to slavery, and they were called the Union. The southern states wanted to keep slavery. They seceded from the Union and were called the Confederate States of America. As president, Lincoln had 2 goals: to reunite the South with the North and to end slavery. It was a long and bloody battle, but the North eventually won. Emancipation Proclamation. Emancipation means freedom, and proclamation is an announcement. During the American Civil War, Abraham Lincoln waited until the Union, or the northern states, had won a big victory. Then he made a very famous and very important announcement called the Emancipation Proclamation. In it, he said that all the slaves in the southern states were free. The slaves in the North were already free. This proclamation was important because there were still over 3 million slaves in the South. Gettysburg Address. When the North defeated the South in the Battle of Gettysburg in 1863, It was the beginning of the end of the war. The South was soon to lose. About 4 months after this battle, Abraham Lincoln made a famous speech called the Gettysburg Address. It is only 272 words and 3 minutes long, but it is one of the most important speeches in American history. It begins, 77 years ago, and this refers to 1776, the date of the Declaration of Independence, which said that all men are created equal. Second term as President of the United States. Abraham Lincoln was elected for a second term as President of the United States in 1864. The American Civil War was not yet over, so it was still a difficult time in American history. For a time, it looked like he might not be re-elected. There were many Union defeats, so Lincoln gave his Army commander, Ulysses S. Grant, more troops. Lincoln won the election and then began the job of trying to put the North and South back together again. The war wasn't quite over, but he was thinking about the future. Assassination. As the American Civil War was coming to an end, Lincoln continued to work to bring the southern states back into the Union. He continued to try to help slaves to become free people. Many people from the South were angry with Lincoln for what he was doing as president. John Wilkes Booth was a Southern spy from Maryland. On the night of April 14, 1865, Abraham Lincoln and his wife Mary were watching a play at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. John Wilkes Booth shot and killed Lincoln during the play. How America remembers Abraham Lincoln. America remembers Abraham Lincoln as one of the greatest presidents of the United States. He is remembered as the strong leader who helped America through the American Civil War. He is also remembered as the president who ended slavery and forced Americans to truly accept the words of the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal. His face appears on the $5 bill, the penny, on many postage stamps, and on Mount Rushmore. The Lincoln Memorial is in Washington, D.C. Interesting facts. Standing at 6 feet 4 inches, Abraham Lincoln was the tallest president of the United States. The parents of Mary Todd, Lincoln's wife, did not want their daughter to marry Lincoln because of his poor background. Lincoln was the only president of the United States to hold a patent. It was for a device that lifts boats over shallow water. Lincoln liked animals and had cats, dogs, horses, and a turkey. Lincoln was known for his tall black stovepipe hat. He sometimes kept important papers tucked inside of it. Lincoln's nickname was Honest Abe because he once walked miles to return a few pennies to a customer. Lincoln was the first president of the United States to wear a beard. Lincoln was known for being a good storyteller and also for liking to tell jokes to people to make them laugh. Lincoln was the first president of the United States to have been born outside of the 13 original American colonies. Interesting facts. Lincoln did not like to be called Abe and preferred to be called just Lincoln. Lincoln's face has appeared on more than 50 different kinds of postage stamps over the years. Lincoln's assassination occurred just 5 days after the Confederate Army surrendered. Lincoln was the president who decided that Thanksgiving Day should be a national holiday to be celebrated every year during the month of November.